This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
He's Greg, I'm Nick. It's the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles, brought to you by Athletic Greens, the all-in-one nutritional insurance for your body that has over 7,000 five-star reviews. Yes, I said over 7,000 five-star reviews. Greg, let's start with the biggest story of the week with the Patriots. And, of course, I'm talking about N'Keal Harry and Harry getting traded to Chicago for a 2024 seventh-round pick. Woof, what a return for N'Keal Harry.
Yes, you had the appropriate response to the return on that trade. I mean, our long regional nightmare is over. N'Keal Harry is finally gone. Of course, everybody was like, "Oh, I wanted him gone around the draft." Like, yeah, that happens when you actually have a market, when you have a marketable player who might be wanted by other people, and obviously. Looking at the return, it doesn't get much worse than a seventh-round pick 2 years out. I mean, that is literally used footballs in return. And for the Patriots to get that for a player they drafted in the first round, yes, it was the last pick in the first round, is certainly disturbing and disappointing. I don't know how you feel about it, Nick, but, to me, this N'Keal Harry pick, lack of development, all that stuff, it's even more disappointing when you put it into context that, when he was drafted, they were really looking for, targets for Tom Brady and, to really, boost the offense a bit and also, keep Tom Brady happy. And, it would have been great if, N'Keal Harry was like Deion Branch, 20 years later or something like that. And obviously that didn't happen. And again, he's one of those draft picks that when you look at where the Patriots are personnel-wise and the amount of money they've had to expend at the position. I mean, look at wide receiver. I mean, last year they had to sign Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne. This year they had to trade for Devontae Parker. And that's what happens when you don't hit on, top 40, top 60 draft picks like the Patriots went through for a while. And so, disappointing in many respects. But, the one benefit is they pick up $1 million in cap space by trading him instead of releasing him. So that's great, I guess. But, yeah, certainly a disappointing everything when it came to N'Keal Harry.
He never truly settled in, right? It started with the injury at the very beginning. Brady did not necessarily trust him. So he had that just off rookie season, and he just never really got settled. He never found a groove. He never found a rhythm. I don't think the Patriots necessarily used him correctly early on. Then he kind of just soured on the whole experience, it felt, and decided that he wasn't going to show up. He wasn't going to, put his all into actually trying to be a Patriot, which did not help anything. So it went off the rails really early, and neither side was able to put it back on the rails for whatever reason. Wasted pick, no doubt. And, of course, people will look at other wide receivers drafted after N'Keal Harry in that draft. I will say, heading into the draft that year, Harry was well thought of. He was not necessarily a guy that Belichick reached for. He wasn't somebody who everybody kind of the draft pundits were like, wait a minute, what the hell just happened? N'Keal Harry in the first round. He wasn't that kind of guy. He was actually well liked by a lot of people. It wasn't one of those picks that was heavily criticized or panned at the start, which just really shows us that, a lot of us and a lot of pundits that try to do that kind of thing don't really have much of an idea as to what they're talking about sometimes. And Harry he never got it. He never got it on the field. Seemed like he never got it off the field. And he gone. Nobody's surprised. Maybe I'm surprised that it took this long to ship him out, but we all kind of expected him to be gone. And what does it tell you, Greg, that the Raiders were not interested whatsoever, even if it was a sixth-round pick? Josh McDaniels, Ziegler wanted nothing to do with N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, but I think that should tell you, what they thought of him internally. I mean, when you're talking about Josh McDaniels, you're talking about a guy who had the keys of the Patriots offense and, was in charge of, usage for people and, he's trying to install a new system. his system in Vegas, and you would think, getting more and more Patriots players, which, they certainly have no shortage of them. But, it's not like the Raiders are like killing it at receiver outside of Devontae Adams. They could use, if N'Keal Harry was viable, you would have thought that Ziegler and McDaniels would be on board. And I think that they just wouldn't even entertain a 7th round pick 2 years out. Tells you they don't think N'Keal has a chance to do anything.
Yeah, it could have been a 4th or 5th option for that team, right? I mean, you do have Adams. You've got Renfro, who was very good last year. I think McDaniels will get a lot out of Renfro out of the slot. And you've got Darren Waller, who is a really good tight end when he's healthy and out there. But, yeah, I mean, you look at the rest of that depth chart, you could argue N'Keal could have been at least a 4th guy, maybe a 5th guy, but they wanted nothing to do with him. Of course, now we also look at the Patriots depth chart at wide receiver, Greg. I don't think this affects much of anything as far as your top 4 or 5. Harry was not going to crack that. We knew it. He was as good as gone when the season was over. But now you look at receiver. Do you think anybody else could be going?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when we've had our discussions about the roster and 53, 56-man roster, we looked at receiver. And this is even before N'Keal Harry. I certainly have never had N'Keal Harry on the roster for 2022. Right. He's always been a trade release guy for me. We all knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when it was going to happen. And, the question is, do they still have too much? Are they still going to be in a position? Now, look, the guys that we talk about, they're all going to have value. So the longer you hold on to them into camp, they have some good film. Somebody gets an injury and they're like, oh, well, we need a veteran type receiver who we know is going to come in and be productive. Now the Patriots have something to work with. But when you look at it, Devontae Parker's not going anywhere. Jacoby Myers, he's a RFA. He's here for a year. But, basically my depth chart is Parker, Aguilar, Bourne, Myers, and Tyquan Thornton. That's 5 that, as of today, have to be on the roster. And 5 is a lot at receiver. I mean, it's I would say it's the midway point. The Patriots average about 4.6 receivers. That's on the normal, good old 53-man depth chart, as we've been over before. It's now more of a 56-man depth chart. If you can find some people, some veterans who you can stash on the practice squad for the first month of the season, there's now 3 spots there. So if you assume they're going to keep the 5, if you want to keep anybody else among Ty Montgomery, Trey Nixon, Christian Wilkerson, Malcolm Perry, Lil Jordan Humphrey, if you want to keep any of those guys, now you're talking about the practice squad dance. And, I think that based on what we've seen so far, I think that Trey Nixon has a shot. I think that Ty Montgomery, due to his skills, has a shot to stick. So if you're talking 1 or 2 guys, now you're talking about, like, you don't have to because you have the practice squad, but, I think the Patriots could be open to moving somebody. And I think you have to look at Aguilar as the prime sort of guy because Devontae Parker plays the boundary receiver. Yes, Aguilar can play inside. Yes, he did it well with the Raiders when he had his best season. But is that how the Patriots see him? Or do they want Bourne and Myers on the inside? Do they want to use the 2 tight ends more? Is there any room in the middle of the field for an Aguilar? Those are all questions that we don't have answers to, that I'm not even sure the Patriots have answers to. And we're just going to have to evaluate as it goes on during camp. But I don't think, I would doubt seriously that anybody's slated to be traded before camp. I think more you wait till later, right before cuts. Somebody's trying to fill a veteran spot with injury, what have you, then the Patriots could have something of value.
Yeah, I think Aguilar's the guy. You mentioned him. I think he would be the one that was more likely to go. He would also free up some cap space, which, isn't as important as it was going back 2 or 3 months ago. But the one good thing I would say is the Patriots are deep at receiver. So, yes, you screwed up the N'Keal Harry pick. You wish you didn't. You wish he was a stud. You wouldn't have to go out there and spend the money that you spent and trade picks for Devontae Parker and all that stuff. But they are in a good spot at wide receiver. They have as much depth and talent there than they've had in a number of years. You and I have talked about it. I think Aguilar could be the odd man out if Trey Nixon pushes him. It's one of the major storylines we're going to spend a lot of time on, you and I, Greg. on this podcast, I'm sure, during training camp time is, what's Trey Nixon doing? Because I think a lot of eyeballs are on him. Was the mandatory minicamp thing just kind of a flash in the pan? Or does he follow that up when you put pads on and you get really going into this thing? Does he continue to show those flashes? Does he continue to impress? And if he does, I think Aguilar could be out. Last thing on Harry, and when you look at the whole situation, where does he rank for you as far as worst draft picks by Belichick? Is he 1, 2, 3, 4? I mean, I think we all agree he'd be in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, considering the Brady aspect of this and where it was and how they were going and how they've had to overcompensate because of a missed first-round draft pick, I think I would have to put Harry first. I mean, I really would. I mean, I just think there's been so many offshoots to him. I mean, other guys that I considered, Dominic Easley, who was the 29th overall pick, that hurt, and he was a higher draft pick by a few spots. But that's a position where you can figure it out, and the Patriots did during that time. They still played well. In my mind, Rossai Dowling, who was 33rd overall, I forget which draft. Was that 2015? Sorry, I was just looking.
Going. I'll look it up.
But here's the thing, and I remember this distinctly about that 2011. I remember that was one of my first drafts back covering the Patriots, and so the Patriots had the 33rd overall pick, and that was the first pick of the second day of the draft. Everybody had a chance to sleep on it, look at who's available, and I remember the Patriots did a video, and they got a call on that pick, to trade that pick. And Ernie Adams and Bill are putting it on the board, and they ended up saying no. And so they turned down, because I remember that draft, and I was like, well, there are a lot of good players on the board. They're going to be able to trade down here and get a haul for this pick. But they said, nope, we're sticking with it. We have conviction on the player, and Glass Eye never played for the Patriots. And, that was a big loss. They had to go to Brandon Browner, That was a tough draft pick. I think that, the dueling cornerbacks, Duke Dawson and Cyrus Jones, Dawson was a 56 overall pick. Jones was 60th. You should be able to get a cornerback that plays right away. And those guys couldn't play, never played in the league. And then I would have to put Juwan Williams there, who's still on the roster, 45th overall. Doesn't look like he has a role, has never had a role. To me, those are sort of like the top 5 worst Belichick picks, and you can see that, most of them have been pretty recent, and those hurt. They do.
Yeah, you ticked off pretty much all of mine. I mean, off the top of my head, I was thinking as you were talking, Easley was the guy that first came into my mind, because first-round pick, complete bust, did nothing, got hurt, was hurt before he got here, continued to be hurt, was a complete zero. Rossai Dowling, I agree, because he was the 33rd pick. That first pick in the second round is always very valuable. And man, did you swing and miss on that? Juwan Williams, enough of him. I think he's gone. So, I mean, I think you pretty much went down the list. We can go through, of course. I mean, when you're Belichick and you've been doing this for 20 plus years, you're going to have a lot of those. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. But those are the ones I think on a lot of people's lists. All right, before we talk about the top 10 players that need to step up this season for this Patriots team to be something, Greg, let's welcome aboard our friends at Athletic Greens.
Yeah, Nick, I got to tell you, and this is a true story. This is no BS. So I guess I don't want to name the player, but there's a former Packers player that I follow on Twitter, and he put out on Twitter one day, he said, what's the nutritional supplement that you use now that you wish you would have used years ago? And I looked through the mentions because, I'm always looking to help my health and all that stuff. And I got to tell you, this name kept coming up over and over again, Athletic Greens. And I had never heard of it at the time. And multiple people had said Athletic Greens. And so I started Googling, I started looking, had all these great reviews. And so I ordered it. I mean, because, everybody knows I've lost a lot of weight, but, I still have a lot of work to do in terms of my, immune system, vitamins, getting those into my system and better overall health. I mean, I've certainly done a lot of work, but there's a long ways for me to go. So I ordered Athletic Greens out of nowhere. Everybody raved about it. I started taking it, and I got to tell you, my energy level is up. I haven't even come close to being sick since I've been taking it for the last 3 weeks, and I've been traveling a lot, and I just feel better overall. I have more energy. My body processes the foods that I eat much better, and I got to tell you, I think it all has to do with Athletic Greens. So what is this stuff? It's one delicious scoop of AG1. You're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, probiotics, adaptogens to help you start your day right. This blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, your recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. I mean, it's really it hits everything. And you feel it. You feel it almost immediately when you start taking it. And I got to tell you, for me, it's important, with my diet that I've been on, while now I can eat a whole bunch of different things, Athletic Greens is lifestyle friendly, keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, all goes with it. And for me, big on, my diet plan contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, and it still tastes really good. It doesn't taste like you're eating something healthy and consuming it. So right now it's the time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens, listen to this, Nick, is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your purchase.
Wow.
All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Bedard, Bedard. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Bedard to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. I'm telling you, you guys know I did the deal with the diet. That has worked for me. This is the second phase for me. So join in, go check that out.
And people always, I know myself and Kelly do this all the time when we go traveling. We always check out reviews. What's the star review? I won't stay at a hotel if it's under 4 stars at least. I'm talking about the reviews, not the 4-star hotels that cost $1 bajillion. But, Athletic Greens, over 7,000 5-star reviews. So Bedard's behind it. There's a lot of people that have gone online and given this a 5-star review. It's tough to have, 7,000 plus reviews and have them be 5 stars. So check it out, Athletic Greens. All right, let's jump to the top 10 players, Greg, that need to step up for this season to be something. I did not have a ton of time to put my list together, so let's run through your list. I think most of my list looks like your list. Let's start at the bottom. Okay, let's start at number 10. The 10th player or players, which will make sense in a minute, that need to step up for this to be something, Greg.
Yeah, I have the pass backs. So among James White, Pierre Strong, J.J. Taylor, I think that, and to give people a little context, this is, if the Patriots are going to, right now everybody thinks they're sort of middle of the road, not sure what to make of them. Tough schedule, tough division, all that stuff. But if the Patriots are to surprise, if they're to go on a run, say 2001, something sort of out of nowhere, this is sort of my 10 most important players that need to play well for that to happen. And I think the pass backs, you could boost them up the list. But I think that, look, James White got hurt last year. While they certainly got some stuff out of Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson and Brandon Bolden, look, it wasn't the same. And so, Mac Jones doing what he did as a rookie and not really having that veteran wingman that even, Tom Brady used, whether it was Kevin Falk or Shane Vereen or James White, in the most important moments, Brady could rely on those guys. Mac Jones never had that guy. So somebody has to emerge and be that guy for Mac Jones. And so I think that's important. Number 9 for me, Adrian Phillips. Now, his name being on the list might surprise some people and not say Kyle Duggar, who I think could stand to take a big step up this year. But to me, I think that Phillips is more of a guy. I think Duggar, we know, and I think the Patriots know what kind of guy he is. He's going to cover a little bit. He's going to blitz a little bit. But I think that Phillips, in terms of how much they ask him to do, how he's going to have to read the quarterback, how hopefully they keep blockers off of him, where, the big guys up front are doing their job. So Phillips is more free to be a playmaker. I think if he makes more plays this year and is able to do what he's best at, I think he brings a bigger playmaking element to the Patriots defense, and that would be hugely important.
I was surprised by Phillips on the list, honestly, because I think they're pretty good at safety. I love Phillips. Phillips did not make my list. I replaced him with somebody, which I'll get to a little bit later. I agree with you about the third running back. They're 8th on my list in the top 10. Speaking of 8th, let's move to your 8th person on this list.
Jonnu Smith. I mean, look, we've been over it before. Everybody knows there's no secret to this. No fullback. That means a bigger role for Jonnu. He's making $12.5 million a year. He has to be he has to earn that money this year. And if he does that, that means things are going really well for this offense. Or Hunter Henry's hurt, but hopefully that doesn't happen. But if Jonnu Smith has a big year, that's going to be huge for this offense. It gives them a chance to, take a step forward. And number 7 for me is Devontae Parker. And really what I'm looking at there is he just needs to stay on the field and be productive. And the biggest thing is this offense could go to another gear if Parker's out there all the time. He's effective, especially in the red zone, and he's helping make this offense more horizontal to the point where the safeties have to spread out a little bit more. They're like, oh, well, the cornerback just can't. He's too powerful. Parker's too powerful. We can't handle him with one small cornerback, so we got to put a safety over there. All of a sudden, that opens things up for a lot more people.
Yeah, I mean, if you get what you hope to get out of both of those guys you just mentioned, then the offense can be pretty damn good. I don't want to say really, really, but pretty damn good. I mean, when you think of Jonnu Smith as kind of the X factor within this offense and all the different things he might be able to do, all the stuff we talked about last season. Oh, he's going to be in the backfield every once in a while. They're going to be able to do this and do that and 2 tight ends. And not much of that came to fruition. If it comes to fruition this year, man, is he a weapon. And Parker just gives this football team a different element than they've had in the passing game in quite some time. Again, that big boundary guy who can make contested catches. This is the person they wanted N'Keal Harry to be. When they drafted Harry, they thought he might be that dude. Contested catches, red zone, bigger guy, bigger threat. So if Parker can fill that role, then they really have every single piece of the puzzle outside of, maybe you'd say a quick-footed slot receiver of like the Wes Welker days kind of mold. But they really do have everything else you want in this receiving core. All right, let's move to number 6 on your list, Greg.
Yeah, I have Devon Godchow, and you can make the argument that he should be further up the list, and I probably wouldn't argue with you, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. But again, another guy who, it's not a secret. The Patriots have to defend the run better. They have to get opponents into longer yardage, which should be able to let them get into their sub package, where they do have some personnel advantages against offenses, and that should get them off the field and get the offense more possessions, which was a problem at times last year, that the offense was being productive but not getting the ball enough because the Patriots could not stop the run and get off the field. So, Godchow's the linchpin of that. They didn't make any further investment at nose tackle, didn't even draft anybody. It's basically all on him on there, and he was okay his first year, but he needs to be very good for this defense. And that leads me into, and it's related, number 5, I have Raekwon McMillan and Mack Wilson, depending on, who emerges. Right now it looks like it's going to be McMillan, but we know Bentley's going to be one of the linebackers. He knows the system. They feel comfortable with him. Now he needs an athletic running mate, and that would help Bentley a lot. That's also going to depend on the guys up front. But I think, especially after Dante Hightower, after Jamie Collins, after Kyle Van Noy, they basically jettisoned those veterans to get more athletic. And somebody is going to have to show up in that regard. I mean, Cameron Grown could do it. He's a bit of a dark horse there, but I think those two guys, McMillan and Wilson, are the best candidates to sort of make an impact on the second level.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you just said, I had Gottschall, I had McMillan / Wilson on my list as well. I just moved each of them up a spot. I've got Gottschall at 5. I've got McMillan Wilson at 4. That second linebacker is going to mean a lot. Can the person actually be able to cover running backs out of the backfield? Can they maybe take some tight ends at times? Can they handle the run game? Can they go sideline to sideline like this team desperately needs, as we've seen against the Bills? And Gottschall, you hit every mark on that. You know, he's just got to be better. I mean, he's got to be the guy they thought they were bringing in. He's got to hit this year. They didn't address it, so they feel confident that he's going to be able to do that. Will he? We'll have to wait and see. All right, number 4 on your list, Greg.
Yeah, I have Jalen Mills, and some people might say, well, you know, what about Malcolm Butler? What about the quote-unquote number 1 cornerback? Why are you talking about the number 2 cornerback? Well, I think the Patriots will be fine at slot if Jonathan Jones should be back healthy. He's one of the better slot cornerbacks in the league. I think when you talk about number 1 cornerback, you know, if you don't have a stud, you're going to have to help them anyways. And so it looks with a safety. So it looks like the Patriots are going in that direction, and they certainly have enough safeties to get involved. So I think they'll figure that out. I mean, will it be lockdown? Will it be J.C. Jackson-esque? I don't know. I doubt it, but I think they can figure it out. But only if Jalen Mills at number 2 is really solid and they don't have to worry about him and don't have to give him a ton of help. You know, I thought he did that at times last year. I think he's going to need to be even better in year 2. I think he stands a chance, but I think, you know, if you get Jonathan Jones and Jalen Mills to give you really good play, then you can figure out the other cornerback spot. So that's why, to me, I have no doubts about Jones. It's Mills who's really going to have to do the job.
I've got both outside corners on my list. I've got outside cornerback number 2/1, whatever the hell you want to call it, at 7. And I've got Mills at 3 on my list. I've got him bumped up 1 spot than you do. And look, I mean, if Mills, everybody that listens to this podcast by now knows that I'm not the biggest fan of Mills. He's okay. Not a big fan of him. Afraid of him on the outside, afraid of him blowing some plays, giving up big plays, committing some penalties. If Mills is not good, you don't know what you have in the other corner right now. Terrence Mitchell, Malcolm Butler, Jack Jones. We have no clue what's going to happen. I mean, if Mills is bad, this cornerback position could implode quickly. And the Patriots can't afford that in 2022 with passing games at an all-time high. So Jalen Mills is 3rd on my list. Outside cornerback 2 is 7th on my list. We've got the same top 2. So let's just hit them starting at 2, Greg.
I just want to mention Uche real quick, that he was at number 3 for me, and just.
Oh yeah, sorry, Uche, my bad.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, I just thought I just put. Look, we know Dietrich Wise / Henry Anderson is going to be the starter in base opposite Matthew Judon. That's what we think is going to happen. You know, but it's really going to come down to sub, and you know the effectiveness of the Patriots sub package on defense, if they can get there, if the run defense works, is going to be hugely important. And so, you know, you look at Dietrich Wise kicking inside on 3rd downs. Somebody's going to have to come in and be dangerous. And we've heard Steve and Bill Belichick both talk about Uche being a big puzzle piece. Well, you know, he's going to have to deliver. He's going to have to be dangerous and athletic on the outside opposite Judon so he doesn't get double teamed all the time and chipped. If Uche can do that, then I think the Patriots have a chance to be pretty good on defense. And that leads us into the top 2. We both had the same. Number 2 for me is Trent Brown. Yep. It looks like they're going to put him at left tackle. That's the way they worked all offseason. Win at right tackle. You know, that's great. You look back to what Trent Brown was at left tackle his first time with the Patriots. He was a very good left tackle. If they get that type of play, if he is on the field all the time, and you put Cole Strange between a very good Trent Brown and David Andrews, that helps the rookie. You feel good about the left side. It's never going to be perfect, but you feel good about it. However, if the Trent Brown we get this year is the Trent Brown we got last year, in and out of the lineup, in and out of, you know, I don't know how much he wanted to be there at times. If they get that at left tackle, it could be a freaking disaster. Trent Brown, They need Trent Brown to be out there all the time and playing really good football. And if they have a chance to do that, they get that, then I think they can be very good. And that leads to number one, Mac Jones. I mean, they're putting a lot on him with the coaching, all that stuff, what's going on with the offensive line, provided everything else is good and all the things previously on the list go well, then you need to cap it off with the quarterback. And the Patriots probably aren't going to blow out a lot of teams. It's going to be a lot of close games. That means he's going to have to execute without Josh McDaniels in the biggest moments. And if Mac Jones can do that and sort of be, Tom Brady in the early days and really manage everything and be a great game manager, come through in the clutch at times, then we're talking about a 2001 redo.
I had Uche, by the way, at 6 on my list, and I pretty much agree with everything that you said about Brown and Mac Jones being 2 and 1. The only person I had on my list that was different than you, I actually had Cole Strange in there. I think, because of where he was drafted, the fact of that left side on the offensive line to go along with Trent Brown, Strange has got to be good. He doesn't have to be great, but he's got to be good, because if he falls apart and Trent Brown is mediocre, now the entire blind side of your offensive line with your young quarterback is the drizzling shits. So you certainly don't want that to happen. So I've got Cole Strange in there. I took out Devontae Parker. I think they'll be fine at wide receiver, even if Parker doesn't hit. So I replaced Parker with Strange. Yeah, so I know you took a little bit of a shot at this guy, but just a little Cattle's Corner for a minute or two. Pavel Zacha traded to the Bruins for Eric Haula. He was a 6th pick in the 2015 draft. You hate to bring up that draft for Bruins fans because we all remember what happened there. But they brought a guy in that was a top 6 pick in the 2015 draft. They got one. They traded Haula for him. It's a sell high on Haula kind of move. It looks like Haula. It looks like Krejci's coming back, and this move would make you believe that, because Zacha is, he's a center. He can play some wing. He's young though. He's young. He's got potential. You look at that, situation with the Devils. Was it because where he was playing? So I actually like the move. I think it makes sense. I don't think Haula has any higher of a ceiling than we saw this past season. So you bring in a guy who was highly touted coming out, somebody who had his best season last year. I think he had like 36 points, I believe, last season. So he did have his best season in the NHL last year. He's 24, 25 years old. So I don't mind it. I wanted to ask you, though, Greg, there's some mixed reporting about Bergeron right now. Yesterday, we had a French report saying that Bergeron was coming back on a 1-year deal. Today, we had another French reporter saying that Bergeron spoke to him and said he has not decided yet what he wants to do. But let's say that Bergie comes back, right? And you have Bergie coming back. You have DeBrusk rescinding his trade request. And it looks like you're having Krejci come back. And reportedly, a lot of this has to do with Bruce Cassidy. Do you feel any differently about the decision to let Cassidy walk and replace him with Montgomery now that you see some of these players saying, I just didn't want to play for that guy anymore?
That's a tough question, Nick. I think the world of Bruce Cassidy. He's outwardly, I think he's a guy that I would love to play for. The type of coach I would like to be. Tell it like it is. Be straight with your guys. Look, this is where I am with the Bruins. I know there's a lot of Bruins fans that are excited. Bergeron's coming back, Krejci's coming back, whatever. I'm hugely disappointed in the franchise overall. I mean, I think they're just treading water. They're putting off the inevitable just to make the playoffs and not totally go in the tank. If I'm the Bruins, I'm selling as many pieces as possible. I'm sucking for Connor Bedard because great last name, great hockey player. I'm doing all that stuff, and I'm rebuilding. And I'm keeping, even if that means trading Pasternak. I'm building around McAvoy and Swayman and things like that. But this is just, if anybody watched the NHL playoffs, and Family Bedard, we watched almost the entire thing. And my son's a huge Cale Makar fan. If you think the Bruins, with what they're bringing back, let alone if these guys even remain healthy, which all of them have had health issues previously even before they're a year older. Even if they're perfectly healthy, the Bruins do not play the same brand of hockey as the Avalanche, the Oilers, the Rangers, the Lightning. Like, they can't compete. So I just don't understand the point. They are just trying to tread water, make the playoffs. I feel like I'm back in my childhood days with Harry Sinden running things where they're not going anyplace. It's just, and changing coaches every other year is just dumb in my opinion.
If they at least, there goes my voice apparently. If they at least try to thread that needle, which is a very difficult needle to thread, which is to not only
rebuild on the fly.
Yeah, keep some of the older guys like a Bergie. I'm fine with Bergie hanging around just because he's still damn good and because he's such a great leader. While they make some other moves, like maybe you think about trading Marshy when he comes back, and if he looks healthy. If they try to do it that way, then it makes more sense. If this is, hey, we're going to try to just come back and bring back the band, that doesn't make much sense. That's why I actually like this move today, because you are getting younger and it's a position of need. Bringing in Zacha, you're taking a flyer. Now, the one thing about Zacha is I believe he's a restricted free agent, so they got to figure out the contract with him. That's going to be one of those gambles. It is a gamble move, but because it was Hala, I'm fine with it. I do feel, to answer the question I asked you, I do feel slightly different about Cassidy being let go if Bergeron comes back, especially because I just have so much damn respect for Bergie, and he does everything the way. And he's a guy in that dressing room, Greg, that would be like, no, this isn't right. This guy's not right. If Bergie tells me Cassidy's not right for the team, and if that comes out that, that was one of the major reasons why he was thinking of leaving, if Bergie comes back and feels more comfortable without Cassidy there, out of my respect for Bergie, I would say, okay, maybe it was the right move getting rid of him, because if Patrice Bergeron is tired of your ish, then that means a lot of dudes in that dressing room are tired of your ish. So the Bergie thing is, to me, the DeBrusque thing, not as much because DeBrusque is younger and all that jazz, but Bergeron's the one. All right, let's jump to the BostonSportsJournal.com member question of the day. Check them out, BSJ, $39.99 on their annual plan. Not only do you get top-notch analysis of all the Boston pro sports, but if you're a Pats junkie, which you are, you get a ton of video analysis Bedard does on the coach's film, direct access to him in weekly chats. Let's see, Pat North Attleboro, his question. I would sneak Barmore in here somewhere as well, talking about your top 10 list, Greg. Need him to make the leap like Mac, but on the defensive side. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I disagree with that. I mean, look, I think Barmore had a tremendous rookie campaign. And,
tremendously tremendous, as Eddie O would say.
I just think that if the Patriots get that level of play from him, again, they'll be fine. I don't think he needs to go up a level, and I don't even know if he's that type of player, and I don't think they need him to become, say, a 3-down player. I'm not the way they're constituted. If Devon Godchaux plays well, if Lawrence Guy isn't on the downside, what have you. I just think if Barmore can be a really effective pass rusher like he was last year, then I think the Patriots will be fine. So I just don't think Barmore needs to go up a level. He exceeded expectations last year. If he can match those this year, and it's always tough for a rookie who has success year one to match it in year two, so it's something to watch. But if they get that again from him, I think they're just fine.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Barmore, I don't know. If you expect him to make a leap, then how good is he?
That would be like Aaron Donald.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he was really good last year. If he makes a leap, then he's like top 3 defensive lineman in the NFL, which, hey, I wouldn't be arguing about it. If he's going to make that kind of a leap and be a top 3 guy, I'm all for it. Go Christian Barmore. Go Barmore. But, I think I agree with you. But Barmore, you would like to see him improve, but to make the leap might be a little too much to ask from him. The Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast, Nick Cattles, brought to you by our new friends, Athletic Greens. Greg told you all about them. The all-in-one nutritional insurance for your body that has over 7,000 5-star reviews. He's Greg. I'm Nick. This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles. We'll catch you next week.